Hi, this is Eric from longboxreview.com. Welcome to the show. Welcome to a new year. It is 2018, the first new episode of the show, not counting the Legion Project, which is in your feed right now, and also a Gutters episode that I released not too long ago as well. But if you listen to the Gutters episode, you'll find out why I have been silent for the first month and a half or so of 2018. But I'm not here to talk about that. I am here to do my annual retrospective, my look back at the comics, my favorite comics of 2017. And so I never seem to repeat the same methodology, the same categorization that I do in previous looks back, my favorites. And this year is no exception. I have consolidated the categories down to just a few. Let's see here. Really, it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, but one of those is divided into all the publishers that I'm going to talk about. But anyway, again, I'm going to talk about my favorites of 2017. I highly encourage you to let me know what your favorites of 2017 were. I'd very much appreciate it, and I can always talk about that in some future show, possibly. And I also put out on Twitter what I was asking people the same question, and I've gotten one response so far. This is real-time recording here. So I'm hoping to get to some of these. Hope I get more than just the one. Thanks, Matt. Anyway, so let's get right to it. My favorites of 2017. Now, these are not, the best. I am not an objective observer of the comic field or the industry. It's just these are the things that I really enjoyed a lot for various reasons. And I'll get to some of those, or those reasons why. So, totally subjective. I hope, though, that some of these are your favorites, too, and then we could talk about that maybe. Okay, so first up, again, like I said, I'm going to do things a little differently. So first up, I'm going to talk about my favorite comics from some smaller indie publishers. And I'm going to start off with Letter 44. Number 34. This is from Oni Press, written by Charles Soule with art by Alberto Albuquerque. And colors by Dan Jackson. This has been a long running series. They've taken some breaks here and there, but it's one of those series, and I've talked about this before. Can't remember which episode exactly it was, but I've talked about Letter 44 before, and this has been one of those surprising books that when I first read the solicitation, I was interested enough that I started buying it, but I honestly did not think that I would be getting it all this time. I thought maybe I'd get the first six issues and that'd be it. And but the book surprised me, and I kept coming back to it and kept wanting to read it, and it's been one of the more solid reads over these last few years for me. And of course, but it ended as all good things seem to do. And issue number 34 was actually the penultimate, the second to last issue. And the reason I chose that particular issue over, say, the ending or any other issue was it was such a kick in the gut. If you've been reading the book all along, it was, I'll describe it this way. So this is, without spoiling it too much, because you really should go read this book. Go back and read it from issue 1. But this is Earth's climax to this sprawling, oftentimes, ultimately depressing, but wonderful story. The story was told from the point of view, the narrator's point of view, who is this writer, presumably Mr. Soul himself, or some version of Mr. Soul. And I just got that soul. It's the soul of the story. Anyway. But like I said, the focus is on this narrator who is a writer writing about the end of the world, the end of Earth. That's why I say climax. But that narration and coupled with the art, and there's something that Albuquerque does in this story, and most of the story is told in like these 2-page spreads throughout the book. And there's something that Albuquerque does that's tied directly to the story that just really drives home the sense of isolation. But that's undercut by, and desperation, but that's undercut by the scenes of the people of Earth and the way that they are living their lives up to the very end. Just wonderfully done. But like I said, it really drove home the desperation, the fragility, and the beauty of human beings, their lives. I don't know how else I could, how better I can describe this, how this issue made me feel. It was one of the better issues that I read in 2017, obviously, because I chose it here. But the whole issue really just knocked me out. It was just wonderful. Go read Letter 44. From Terry Moore, Abstract Studio, technically, although I guess technically it's Terry Moore. But Motor Girl was a 10-issue series that came out mostly in 2017. This was, like I said, a 10-issue series. It wasn't meant to be an ongoing that got cut short like his previous series, Rachel Rising. He was doing this story as something in between what he did with Rachel Rising and then what he is coming out with this year, which is Strangers in Paradise 25. So, but this story was a lot of fun, as are all of Terry Moore's stories. Beautifully drawn, of course, but the stories are just really, really cool. Terry Moore is one of my top favorite comic book creators. I mean, he does it all. His art, like I said, is beautiful. It's wonderful. But he can tell such a good story, and usually a story centered on and coming out of a very emotional core. I just really respond well to Terry Moore's stuff, and this was no exception. I just love Terry Moore. I don't know how much more I can say about that, but I will say though that this story, which was a wonderful, poignant story about a combat veteran. Something happened with her. She has these, shall I say, visions. She sees things differently than most people. I'll just leave it at that. I don't want to spoil the surprise about it. And so it's about that, but we really don't get that until towards the end. I mean, you get bits and pieces throughout the series, but really the last couple issues really drives home what she was going through or why she was going through it. The rest of it is ostensibly about these aliens who come to visit her and what that all means in terms of the people involved in the story. There's a couple characters who appear to be minor characters at first, but they take on a much larger role as the story goes on. And while those characters I enjoyed, sometimes things revolving around them tend to delve into farcical comedy a little too much for my taste. But I also know that Terry Moore likes that kind of stuff. So, I kind of expect that. And if you've read Strangers in Paradise, you'll know that there is a lot of, well, not a lot, but sometimes there's some farcical comedy injected into the larger, more dramatic story. Anyway, I highly suggest you go pick that up. I think the trade collection has already been solicited, so you should be able to get this or get it soon by the time you listen to this. From Dark Horse is one of my favorite books of the year as well, Black Hammer. by Jeff Lemire and Dean Ormston with Dave Stewart on colors. I wasn't going to actually read all the credits for all these books, but it seems like I've conditioned myself to do it. So I guess I am. Anyway, Black Hammer. So issues 7 through 13, I believe. Now, okay, so hopefully I'm not wrong about these issue numbers. I just did a quick report from all the stuff that I have ordered, and I did it through stuff that whatever appeared between January and December. So some of these might be off a little bit. So, forgive me for slight errors in that area. But anyway, so I look at Black Hammer as it's the best Silver Age with a modern take Justice League story. Think of that as a hyphenated phrase out there. So in this last year, we got a lot more character spotlights of the various main characters. I particularly enjoyed the Golden Gale and Barbalian spotlights. Besides that, though, there was the arrival of Black Hammer's daughter and her attempt to get out of the farm, this what I think of as a pocket universe that all these characters are trapped in. And what I believe what's coming next is how she deals with this, and what it means for her to be Black Hammer's daughter and in possession of Black Hammer's hammer. So I'm really looking forward to what comes next on this book. It's been a lot of fun. I know that there was a miniseries that was solicited a couple months ago, which actually I was going to wait for the trade on that one. But it looks like the series is returning with a slight title change, and I think a number one. They're relaunching at number one. Anyway, forget all that. Just buy it because it's a damn good book. I mean, it's better than DC's Justice League book for sure. So if you're looking for a Justice League fix, Black Hammer is the thing to read. Okay, so next up is a book from IDW. It is a trade paperback, a very small trade paperback. I think it's like, I don't know, 4x5, that size. Anyway, it's a small book. I didn't expect that, but a small book, but packed full of a lot of really cool story art. This is Roots by Tara O'Connor. So when I saw this in previews a while back, I read the solicitation, and it was a story about this young artist who basically goes and finds herself in Ireland. And I just thought it was really cool. And the cover is really neat because, it's Tara. I believe it's Tara on the cover. I'm trying to remember all the details now, a few months later, but it's got some buildings in the background, I think, with the Irish flag maybe. But it's a close up of her with her red hair. And I'm a sucker for Ireland based stories. Mostly because my wife and I went vacationed in Ireland a couple of years ago, and I absolutely fell in love with that country, and I cannot wait to go back. So the Irish Ireland aspect of it really drew me in, but the story itself is it's wonderful. Tara O'Connor wanted to investigate her roots, for her ancestors who came from Ireland, but really what she found was her future. The roots of her future. And I think she even has described it in that way as well, in interviews that I've read or listened to. But I really recommend you go read this book. If you like, slice of life, based in reality type comics. And I find myself being drawn more and more to those. So, Roots is a nice gateway to that kind of stuff. So go pick that up. And late in the year, I read Stumptown, Volume 1 from Oni. So they're reissuing the Stumptown books by Greg Rucka and Matthew Southworth was the artist on that, with a few different colorists, including Lee Loughridge. I forget how to pronounce his last name. So this is Greg Rucka's PI story set in Portland. And, I've known of Stumptown for several years now, and I always meant to pick it up and check it out. I like Greg Rucka's writing. I like things that are set in my neck of the woods. Portland is about 7 hours away by car for me. And I love visiting that city. I live in a town. I like to go to the city. The west side of the U.S., especially the Northwest, Seattle, Portland. I just love that entire area. If I could, I would live near there. If I wasn't living in Ireland, that is. So I read this book late in the year and just loved it. Loved it. I like PI stories. I'm going to talk about it. Another thing having to do with a private investigator. Actually, now that I think about it, there's like 3 different versions of PI characters in this list. Anyway, so like I said, I love Rucka's writing, and this is no exception. He has really cool characters. He's able to, in just a few short pages or issues for that matter, really develop, along with the artists he works with, develop these characters into, 3-dimensional, realistic characters. And that's one of the things that I'm really drawn to. It's story, it's characterization. I really like that. When it works well, I really, really like it. And this is no exception. So think of this as similar, the main character whose name, for some reason, I did not write down. Anyway, she's similar to Jessica Jones, since a lot of people are familiar with her now from the TV series, and maybe you've read her in Marvel Comics, but think of Jessica Jones, but in a real world setting. And I'm definitely ordering more of these trades. I already ordered volume 2. I hope that Oni keeps putting out the rest of these books so I can keep getting them. And like I mentioned earlier, I put a message out on Twitter asking what people's favorite comics from 2017 were, and I got a response from Matt from Wednesday Serial. Go look him up on YouTube. He says Turtles, the Turtles book, because it's the only series leveraging the use of the years of build-up to keep building. All right, I will have to take Matt's word at that, because I don't think I've read more than a handful of Turtles issues over the years, maybe. So sorry, Matt. Obviously that's something, and you have recommended, Matt has recommended the Turtles before to me, and I just haven't gotten into it yet. But the more he keeps recommending it, the more I think I really need to follow up on that. So thanks for that reply, Matt. Okay, next I want to talk about some of my favorite Image books, because Images, I consume a lot of Image material. And let's see here. I'll come back to that one. I should have ordered these in my notes a little better. But first I'll talk about Annual, the trade paperback Annual. So this is by Joe Casey and a bunch of other people. But this is it's an anthology series, and I love the cover. It didn't make in the end. It didn't make my list of favorite covers of 2017, but I still love it because it's really reminiscent of the old DC annuals. And if you go look up the cover for this book, you'll see why. But this is, it's an annual. It's just called Annual, and it's an anthology series. I tend to like anthology series, and this one really delivered the goods for me, unlike another anthology series. I'm looking at you, Black Crown Quarterly, but I especially like the different take. There's many different stories, and one of them was a take on the Norse mythology characters. So it's a different look at the Thor universe, but the main character here was Odin, not Thor. But it's squarely looking askance at Marvel's version of the Norse gods. So I really like that. And that's not to say, I love Thor by Jason Aaron and Russell Dodderman. So don't get me wrong. This is not a slam towards that, because that's a goddamn beautiful book. Anyway, but so I like the Odin thing, and there's this. Okay, I did some research on it. Just a quick Google search, and I don't know if this is an actual history of something or a faux history. I think it's a faux history. I should have done more research before I turned the damn mic on. I didn't. I'm just going to let it stand, whatever. If you know details about this, let me know. But I think it's a faux history of this thing called Century Hero Comics. It's written like an investigative report, sort of, or a retrospective article. And so it's about this barely known but positively reviewed by the critics set of books from this comic company, and they talk a lot about these characters, Colonel Cain and Abel, which is kind of a Batman and Robin style characters. That's Colonel Cain and Abel in The Nightmare Bandit. That just blew me away. I was so drawn in, and I literally thought it was one of these lost histories in comics that I just wasn't aware of. There's so much about comics before the Bronze Age that I just don't know about. And so I thought this is one of those things. And I was like, oh, I want to know more about this. Where can I find these comics? And then I did a quick search before or while I was taking my notes here. And it led me to believe that this is not real. And if so, it's just brilliant. Either way, it's brilliant. So I highly recommend you pick up Annual and take a look, or read this and take a look at it, and let me know what you think about it. I really dug it. Next up is Lazarus X plus 66. So the first 5 issues came out. This is a 6-issue miniseries. This is from Greg Rucka, Eric Troutman, and Neil Bailey are writers. Artists Steve Lieber, Mac Chater, Justin Greenwood, Aletha Martinez, Bilkis Evely, and with Santiago Arcas on colors and Jody Wynn on letters. So if you've been listening to the show for a while now and have listened to any of my other favorites of the years, you'll know that Lazarus has long been one of my very favorite books. And it still is, but only one issue, I believe, was released in 2017, so I can't really say that it continues to be my favorite in comparison to many of the other books that I've read in the last year. But there was this miniseries that they came out with that fleshes out the world more and specific characters more. So there are some characters that readers of the book recognize very quickly, and there's some others that are minor characters in the story so far that got some spotlight. So that was really, really cool, and we get to see a bunch of different artists' takes on this world, these characters. And so basically, if you love Lazarus as I do, you have to read this. Think of it as a companion piece, an interlude. I don't know why. They could have done this within the main book proper, but decided to do this miniseries. So it doesn't matter. I bought it, obviously, but it's always interesting why creators make these, especially when you are doing creator-owned stuff. I'm really curious as to why they do these or make these kind of decisions. What does that gain you to do these miniseries like this kind of stuff that I think could have easily fit? But anyway, if you listened to episode 116, this was my discussion with Mr. Greg Schiegel, who is a cartoonist that works on the SpongeBob SquarePants comic, but he also does his own book called Pix. And in 2017, he came out with Pix, Too Super for School. So this is the second volume in his Pix line of books. The first one is One Weirdest Weekend, and I discovered that a few years ago. I talked about it on, I don't remember the episode. You can go to longboxreview.com and search for it. But it's there. It was a wonderful, volume 2 continues to be a wonderful continuation of that universe, that story, that character. And it was great to get to visit this world again, because I talked to Greg. I got to actually read the story before it was published, which was really cool. Thanks, Greg. And but anyway, it's an all ages superhero magical fantasy. In my notes I say it's all ages superhero magical fantasy fun. It's just fun comics. That's what I really loved about the first volume, and we get a little bit more in this. We get it more in the second volume, although Greg does delve into some more sobering topics in that second volume. But it's all still good. I really wish Greg could do an ongoing series of this. I mean, I will take anything that is Pix. So if I have to wait another couple years for the third volume, I am more than happy to do that. But man, I wish Greg could afford to do more of this, more in this universe. And I even told him in the, I don't know if I talked about this in episode 116 with him, or if it was just in our discussion before and after. I would love to see even more like spin-off stuff, because this world that he has created is so rich that he could easily do that. And I would buy it all. And you should too. Okay, next up, one of my favorite books that I read in 2017. Now, this is one of those entries in my list that, while was not published in 2017, I read it in 2017, and so I say, therefore, it counts, because it's my show. And that is Faster Than Light. This is the two trade collections that I read. This is by Brian Haberlin. And I forgot to write down the artists. Well, that was silly on me, because the artist is Brian Haberlin. Story and art by Brian Haberlin. Bad note taking. With colors by Dan and Dave Kemp on Volume 1, and Jared Van Dyke on, I think, on the other one, with Francis Takanega on letters. Anyway, go listen to episode 117, where I talked about Volume 1 of this book. I believe is Volume 1. It may be both. This is the science fiction book that I wish I had more of. I love sci-fi. It was the itch that got scratched. This book, I wish I had more like this. Actually, I wish I had more of this. I wish it was still being published. If it were, I would go buy all the floppies, all the back issues, and I would continue to read it every month, because this is so much fun. It touches on, it's science fiction, it's set in the near future, and people encountering aliens and dealing with situations. It's got politics, it's got intrigue, it's got sci-fi, alien horror aspects. It's got it all. It even includes self-referential things, like, they talk about how it's like being in Star Trek. These characters are talking about as if they were in Star Trek. I love it. I love this book. There was also I talked about this, I think, in episode 117, but there is also a AR app that Haberlin put out as a companion piece for the comic. And I said back in episode 117 that I was going to take a look at the book again with that app, and I simply haven't done it yet. But it's on my to-do list. The app is still on my phone ever since I talked about it. before, and it's still there. So eventually I'll get to it. Oh, I messed up here because I'm ending with 2 books by Warren Ellis. I didn't intend to do that. That's why I put these in the order I did, and I forgot. Anyway, one of the books that are written by Warren Ellis that I absolutely loved, that I read this year. Again, this is Trees, the first volume, which was published in 2015, but I read it in 2017, so it counts. This is another great work by Ellis, I should say. I was blown away by the first few pages, the emotional impact, the tragedy of what comes out of the story, and just those first few pages. I thought we were going to follow these 2 characters in those first few pages, and then Ellis just yanks the carpet out from under me, and we go somewhere else with the story, which is fine. I talked before about one of the books. I can't remember which one now, where I said that the rich, I think it's Lazarus, but the rich universe that you can explore more of. Ellis and Jason Howard, who is the artist, they created such a rich, dynamic world in literally just a few pages for me. And it was so good. I have ordered volume 2, and I can't wait to read more of this. It looks like there's only 2 volumes. I'm not sure if the book was canceled or they're just on a long hiatus. Anyway, it's sort of a companion piece thematically, in a way, in my headcanon, to the next book on the list, which is Injection, which, dun da da da, is my favorite series of 2017, my favorite book of the year. So again, I mentioned episode 117 in relation to Faster Than Light. I also talked about Injection Volume 1, I think, just Volume 1, in that episode as well. So you can go listen to that. But this book, as I said, written by Warren Ellis, Declan Shalvey is the artist with Jordi Belair on colors. This is just full of crazy techno magical. Why'd I write that? It's just full of techno magical craziness with really interesting characters. You got to read Injection. It is so much fun. These characters are they're the kinds of people that Agent Mulder from the X-Files would love to hang out with, but they wouldn't give him the time of day. Oh man, I think I need to do another episode on and catch up on Injection, because good God, what cool ideas, what crazy cool, funny stories. I guess I'm kind of speechless in trying to describe this, or I'm just lazy or crappy at it. Take your pick, but I love this book, and I think you would too. And let's see here. So I got a few more responses from Twitter, so this is really cool. This is from the Brad Panther, or at the Brad Pinder, Pinder. So Brad says Invincible is one of his favorites, a long, consistently great series that will be missed when gone. Brad, I totally agree with you. Invincible is one of those books that, like Saga, like Lazarus, should be on my favorites list every year. But, because they're consistently great comics. But I tend to, as I think most of these, best ofs or favorite lists, that we tend to glom onto the more, recent things that we've read or new things that we've read in comparison to the older ongoing stuff. So, thanks for that note. Invincible, as I have loved that book since Volume 1, because I read it in trade. And so I'm anxiously awaiting the last, I think, 2 trades of this series, because the series is ending, and it'll be a sad day when I read that final volume. So thanks for that, Brad. let's see here. George from the George and Tony Entertainment Show, longtime listeners will know George. He has a lightning round first 5 that come to mind, but includes one from Marvel. So I'll wait for that one when I get to the Marvel stuff. But Mech Cadet U, Black Hammer and the related mini, he says, Misfit City, which I vaguely recall the title, but I cannot for the life of me remember what that is even about. And he says, believe it or not, Clue, the comic Clue, which he and I have talked about a little bit. Why, he says, because they are all refreshing and a heck of a lot of fun. So thanks, George, for that. And let's see here. Zach on Twitter, Zach Dorman, says, let's see here. He has one independent book called Time and Vine by Tom Zoller. And George has also recommended Time and Vine as well on his show and with me personally. Zach says, not sure Tom Zoller does any wrong. I haven't read a bad book of his. So there you go. Gosh, based on at least these 2 recommendations that I've received, it seems like Time and Vine is something that I should read. I believe that is a time travel book based on wine. And I mean, that's just a crazy concept, right? And so it just begs to be read. So I'm going to have to get that trade. Thanks, Zach. And Comic Da Comic, as I don't know CDC. I don't know your name, so you have to let me know that. But he says East of West has been one of the most consistent comics for 4 years now, and I know how good it is. It's a Jonathan Hickman written book, and I used to read that book, but after, I don't know, 20-ish, 24-ish issues, I think it was less than that, maybe 18. Anyway, I dropped the book. I don't know. I just wasn't feeling it. But my good buddy Travis also reads that book. He keeps, every once in a while, he'll let it slip how good the book continues to be. And I keep kicking myself for not continuing with it. So maybe one of these days I'll go back and get the back issues that I've missed. So thanks for that. Okay, let's see here. All right, I've done small publishers. I've done Image. So now we're going to go to Marvel. Marvel Comics. So favorites of mine. I actually have quite a few on here, which kind of surprised me because I tend not to read a lot of monthly Marvel comics. But the ones I did read that I really enjoyed, Defenders was one of them, Brian Michael Bendis. Writing my favorite characters of his that he writes or has written in the past, Luke Cage, Jessica Jones, Daredevil. Iron Fist is in it too, but Iron Fist has not been one of my favorite characters from Marvel Comics, though he is a favorite of my buddy Greg's. But anyway, so you got those 4 characters. I love Bendis, and David Marquez is the artist on here. With, I don't want to point out the Justin Ponzer, Paul Mounts colors. I think it's Justin Ponzer who does most of them. I think maybe it was issue 8 with Michael Avon Emming, who did some short bits of art here for that issue. But anyway, I love Bendis and Marquez together. I love the characters, the characterization, the dialogue, the banter back and forth between the characters in this book. I have to admit that the Diamondback story was getting a bit long in the tooth for me. But you know, that's also Bendis. I mean, he likes to do a slow burn, a slow build up to something really cool. And I really like Bendis's storytelling. I like his dialogue. I know a lot of people don't, but I'm a big fan of his, and I'll talk about him later. Next up is a book that I don't think got enough attention, enough credit. I talked about it before, I think, on some shows, maybe even last year's favorites. This is Ultimates, but this is Ultimates 2 or Ultimates Squared. I think of it as Ultimates 2. There's about 7 or 8 issues that came out in 2017. This is written by Al Ewing with Travel Foreman mostly on the art and Dan Brown colors. So they did issues 3 through 9, and then they did ending the series with issue 100 when Marvel redid their numbering thing. And so I guess this issue 100 ties into the Ultimate line of the books, I guess. I don't know. I don't care. It doesn't matter to me. What I'm really annoyed about with this is not the numbering, it's that it ended. They canceled the book, which is stupid decision. Or maybe I should point the blame at us, the people of us, we who did not order the comic and buy the comic and read the comic and talk about the comic enough. I put that on me too. I didn't talk about it enough. But this was Marvel Cosmic. Anyway, like I said, this didn't last long enough. The story, I think, was cut short. It had to do with the cosmic beings of the Marvel Universe, kind of going at each other, with Galactus kind of stuck in the middle, along with the human characters who were, Black Panther, Captain Marvel. I'm not remembering all of them. Blue Marvel, America? No. Miss America? I think that was in the previous version. No, she was part of this. Yeah. What's her name? The formal Captain Marvel, the one who could turn into all sorts of energy. I think she's called Spectrum now, maybe. Anyway, all these characters, they're all kind of in the middle there, and it was building up to something really grand and fantastic. And I kind of felt it didn't end on a bang quite as much as I thought it would, which is too bad. There was so much more they could have done in this book, with these characters. And it was just this wonderful little pocket of the Marvel Universe that was being played with that I think no one looked at, unfortunately, or not enough people did. Okay. Next is my favorite Marvel book and one of my very favorites of the year that I was reading, and that is The Mighty Thor. And so we got several issues of that. Jason Aaron and Russell Dodderman, for the most part, on art. Matthew Wilson, mostly on colors. My God, this book is so much fun. You got the Asgard Shi'ar War. You got War Thor, Volstagg as War Thor. What that whole storyline, what turned Volstagg into War Thor was, God, heart-wrenching. And I think that story just ended, and now we have, going into 2018, we have the return of Mangog? And it looks like they're going for another destruction of of Asgard. God, I couldn't think of it for a second. So anyway, I'm interested. Oh, of course, we're also building up to the death of, spoilers maybe, the death of Jane Foster. So also we found out this last year that Mjolnir is sentient or something. It was very bizarre, and you will never see the hammer, Thor's hammer, the same again once you've read those issues from last year. Probably the best superhero book in my pull list is The Mighty Thor. So wow, great stuff. Brian Michael Bendis returns to the list with Jessica Jones, with Michael Gaydos. So they team back up. This is the Alias team, the Alias set of books from many years ago. They return to tell Jessica Jones, a new story about Jessica Jones. And I loved Alias. And this is a return to that. The same voice, with, an update to what's going on with Jessica Jones, as has been developed over the years. The first story was good. It was a story involving, what's her name from S.H.I.E.L.D.? God, I can't remember her name now. But the second story, just, oh my God, it's the return of the Purple Man to it. This is the second story, and probably the last story in this arc, or in this series, because of Bendis' move to DC. But again, Bendis shows that the Purple Man is scary as shit under his pen. And I really think that no one else should get to write the Purple Man except for Brian Michael Bendis. Because, under Bendis, the guy became one of the scariest characters in the Marvel Universe. Going from gritty storytelling to quite the opposite, really, is The Unstoppable Wasp. We got eight issues of this beautiful, beautiful comic book. Again, an all-ages comic book that was cut short, written by Jeremy Whitley with art by Elsa Chartier. If you know Infinite Loop and other things, I think Chartier did some issues on Starfire for DC. I'm trying to rack my brain because I know she's done some other things. But anyway, beautiful art, beautiful character in Nadia, the Unstoppable Wasp. So much fun, positivity, and delight. I was just delighted by this book. I need to buy. What I'm hoping for is that Marvel will come out with a trade that collects the entire run. They did I think the first 4 issues, and they're going to do the next 4. I think maybe. Oh, and I forgot to. Matt Wilson did the colors on the first issue with Megan Wilson. I'm wondering if they are related at the moment. Anyway, I wish I saw the world through Nadia's eyes. Everyone should. She was, like I said, so positive and, a bit naive, but she was, she's super smart, and she wanted to get a collection of girls together, girls who did science and promote, science and wonder and positivity in the world. I really fell in love with this book and that character, and I will be reading more of Jeremy Whitley's work, and of course, I will always buy stuff from Elsa Chartier. It didn't last nearly long enough. I don't know why. It was a brilliant book, and people should go read it. Another brilliant book. Again, this is an old book that I had on my shelf. It's a trade. It's Agents of Atlas, the Dark Reign trade paperback. I don't remember when this came out, but I finally read it late last year, and oh my God, what a wonderfully surprising story. Why isn't this group, these Agents of Atlas, why aren't they around in the Marvel Universe right now? Why isn't there a series featuring these characters? So much fun. Written by Jeff Parker with art by Carlos Pagulayan. I'm murdering that name, I know. Leonard Kirk, Gabriel Hardman, and Benton Jew. Wow. I would, if they came out with a new Agents of Atlas, written by Jeff Parker especially, I would buy this. I would buy it in a cold second, hot minute. That's the one I'm thinking of. Either way, I would buy it. Marvel just recently solicited the Complete Collection Volume 1, which contains, I think, most of what is in the Agents of Atlas Dark Reign trade paperback that I have. So either way, I ordered it because I want to read more about these Agents of Atlas. Fun book. I love it when I find, when I make a find like that. It's like, this stuff I have in my collection. There's so many books I have, trades and other issues of comics that I have not read. They're in my collection, but I haven't read them. And I love it when I find something that I fall in love with. And this is one of those books. I mentioned earlier that George had a Marvel book on his list, and it is Moon Girl and Devil Dinosaur. And he and I have talked about this before, and he's recommended it to me as well. And I keep meaning to buy the trades, and because based on what George is saying, it's a great book. And basically, I think maybe he's even said, if I'm liking Unstoppable Wasp, I would love Moon Girl and Devil Dinosaur. And come to think of it, Moon Girl and Devil Dinosaur actually show up in Unstoppable Wasp, and that helped to sell the concept to me as well. So I'm going to have to pick it up. So thanks for that, George. And before I move on to DC, I just got a response on Twitter from Comics and Movies, who I believe this is at Movie Revolt on Twitter. They do Geekcast Radio and Nerdly. So you go to geekcastradio.com. And so whoever's behind this Twitter feed said that great year of comics highlighted by Kill or Be Killed. And they also did a top 100 comics of 2017. If you are interested in finding out what comics and movies have to say, Kill or Be Killed is on my pull list as well. Anything by that team on that book, I buy. So it's a great book. I don't get me wrong, but it's kind of like I was talking about in regards to Saga, Paper Girls. Those kinds of books that are great. They've been going for a little while now, or a few years now in some cases. But I'm excited about some of these other ones that are somewhat new. And so that's where I'm at with that. And John DaCosta just messaged me. Plastic is a mini from 2017 that deserved the ongoing treatment. Eccentric, grotesque, and kinky. I don't think I've heard of that one. So, I'll have to at least look at that and see what that's all about. So that's another recommendation from another person on Twitter. Okay, up next is DC books. Okay, so DC. I love DC Comics. I love those characters. And first up is a story, Superman Reborn, that I devoted an entire episode to it, episode 115. So I guess go listen to that. But this is from Superman 18 and 19 and Action Comics 975. Right? It says 975 through 977. That's got to be a typo. It's got to be 975 to 976 or 976 to 977. I don't know. Either way, go listen to episode 115. But briefly, I really loved how two of DC's universes, the pre-Flashpoint and the New 52, kind of melded together by the end of the story. Even if they did get rid of what I thought was great story potential with the old pre-Flashpoint Superman taking over for the younger New 52 Superman. So they just got rid of that altogether, which is too bad. I'm sure many people would disagree with that, but whatever. It also set up Mr. Oz as this potential big bad. And also there were ties to the rebirth antagonist that is going on in Doomsday Clock right now. Some of those things have changed since Superman Reborn came out. But anyway, I really enjoyed this. This was by Patrick Gleason, Peter Tomasi, Dan Jurgens as writers, Patrick Gleason, Doug Monk, Mick Gray, Jaime Mendoza, Christian Alamy, and Trevor Scott on John Cleese and Wilfredo Quintana on art, including colors. So I just really enjoyed that story. It is one of those stories in my mind that I keep wanting to go back and reread for some reason. So there you go. Astro City. Now this is Vertigo, but it's still DC. But Astro City, issues 47 and 48, written by Kurt Busiek, of course. Pencils or art by Mike Norton on this one, with Pete Pantazis on colors. But this is the G-Dog story. It's a story about a young man and his dog. It's Kongorilla meets Shazam in a way. It's about a ne'er-do-well guy who's he's kind of a crook, sort of not a great guy, but he gets extremely lucky after he steals this amulet that allows him to in a Shazam-like fashion, meld into his pet corgi. I think it's a corgi. I might be wrong about that. But he's transformed literally and spiritually through this merging of him and his dog. I am man enough to admit this one literally made me tear up in the second issue. I won't say why, but oh my God, what a beautiful story. Immediately after reading it, I hugged my dog. I love my dog so much. And this reading the story really drove that feeling home for me. I love this so much that I want a hardcover special edition of just these 2 issues. I'm going to have to find a way to make that happen, or I'll just buy the trade collection that contains this story. Definitely the best short story of 2017 in my mind. Such a good story. Wow. Actually, pretty much all the DC stuff I think are just great. Next is, and no exception, of course, is Batman under Tom King as writer. You got Mikel Janin, Clayman on art. Jody Belair does some colors. A bunch of other people that we got throughout the year. So we got issues about 14 through 37, I think. But I really want to talk about the Super Friends 2-parter. I mentioned some other things here, but anyway, I just think Tom King is killing it on Batman. I know a lot of people are not so enamored with King's interpretation of Batman, and not my Batman is a hashtag I've been seeing, but whatever. I love it. King brings a literary style to his comics and to Batman in particular. So I really appreciate that DC handed the reins over to him for this character. Because he's left such a great mark so far to me on the character, and it's akin to Morrison's run on Batman as well to me. I love how King's Batman interacts with mostly the women in his wife, Catwoman, Talia. The interplay between him and Bane in the I Am Bane storyline was just really cool. There was the Brave and the Mold one shot was just a really wonderful done in one story. Go listen to episodes 185 of the George and Tony Entertainment Show and episode 127 of this show, where we talk about the entire run of the War of Jokes and Riddles, which was just a beautiful, beautiful story, mostly for the art. Quite honestly for me, but anyway, the annual number 2 that came out late in 2017 is a beautiful love story. Though I will say that I thought it was kind of odd to tell that story at this point in the main book, where we're just getting the beginning of that marriage or potential marriage of Batman and Catwoman. So I thought that was weird and kind of, I was going to say a gutsy move, but it's not really gutsy, but it's a different, it's just different. I'm not sure why. I would have thought that you might have gotten a story like that, like towards the end of King's run instead of, which is essentially the beginning. Anyway, doesn't matter. It was still a good book, but what I really, really loved was the 2-issue Super Friends story arc. I was going to do a spotlight on that. I may still, I don't know. But because of how things, because of the holidays and then stuff that happened to me in January, I didn't get to it, so it might be too late. But anyway, so many great moments in those 2 issues as a Superman Batman as Friends fan that I am. But really, it was Lois and Selena who steal the show in that story. And plus in that issue, there's a scene where Clark and Bruce are swapping costumes because you have to wear a costume to go into the fair. It's kind of a contrived plot point, but Anyway, they're doing this, and so they're talking to each other as they're getting dressed in the stalls next to one another. And I mean, that's good enough in itself, just that dialogue between them. But then I noticed in the background, the graffiti that's written on the walls are all titles to Magnum PI episodes. Now, I don't know who did that. I don't know if that was Clay Mann, the artist, or if that was Clayton Coles, the letterer, or if it was something that was done by Tom King. I asked Tom King on Twitter, but he was too busy. He couldn't get back to me. Whatever. But whoever did it, kudos to you, because that just tickled this Magnum PI fan absolutely pink. I loved it. I still, every time I think about it, I get a big freaking smile on my face, a big goofy smile on my face. Anyway, Tom King gets my nod for favorite writer if I had to say any particular one. Good stuff. You should be reading Tom King's Batman. A surprising addition to this list is Flintstones. So I read the first two trade volumes, there's only two. This is written by Mark Russell with Steve Pugh on art, with Chris Chuckery on colors, Dave Sharp on letters. Like I said, this is so surprising. I dismissed this. I remember talking about this on one of my previews episodes, maybe with George, but I dismissed it because I thought where they were going with this was going to be somewhat distasteful in my mind, kind of tone deaf, but I was totally wrong. I totally misread that solicitation. And it was word of mouth from many people that I follow on Twitter. And I think George also recommended it to me as well. And so that prompted me to buy the trades. And it was a lot of good social commentary in this book set in the Flintstones universe. And so I really recommend it too. It was not that I read all of them, but it appears to have been the best of that initial run of Hanna-Barbera properties that they had comics out for. So good stuff. Speaking of cartoon properties, I just want to mention the Batman Elmer Fudd special written by Tom King with is this right? Byron Vaughns and Lee Weeks on art, Laverne Kinzerski and Carrie Strand on colors, Darren Bennett on letters, I think. I hope all these credits are right. I took them from the comic database program that I use. I got all of those DC Hanna-Barbera character crossovers, and this one was definitely the best of the bunch. I've never really liked Elmer Fudd, and I still don't, the cartoon version of Elmer Fudd, but I really liked Tom King's take on Elmer Fudd. It was a lot of fun to read. You should go check that out. Batman 66 meets the Legion of Superheroes by the Allreds and Wes Abbott on letters. I really like Mike Allred's art, and I think his art really sells the Batman 66 concept to me. I haven't gotten a whole lot of the Batman 66 specials. I have two of them, actually. This one being the latest one that I read. So the art alone is pretty good. I have a fondness for the Batman 66 show, but I got this really because of the Legion appearance. And so there's that. And I also love that Robin was invited to join the Legion because, as I think Saturn Girl says this, he's the greatest teen hero in history. Hear, hear. Even though the Legion have this misperception about Robin's abilities, he proved himself as Robin always does, because he's a great hero. Anyway, I'm really hoping that Peter Rios and I discuss this on the Legion Project podcast at some point. And finally, from DC, for me, is Justice League of America 12 through 17. This was the Microverse story, written by Steve Orlando, art by Joe Prado, Ivan Reis, Felipe Watanabe, Julio Ferreira, Ryu Jose, boy, I don't know how to pronounce that. Jose, Claire Albert, Marcelo Maiello, all the artists, inkers, and colors there. Clayton Coles on letters. Like I said, it was the microverse thing that drew me in. It was focusing on the two atoms and what they went through, as well as mostly the Reyes art. I really like Yvonne Reyes's art. But I actually quite enjoyed this story more than I thought I would. So it was a nice interlude or a nice interjection of the Justice League of America book. I have not read anything else of this title since it relaunched, but I seriously thought about continuing it after I read this. I didn't, but I thought about it. And let's see, some other responses I got from Twitter about DC Comics. Let's see here. This is from Zach Dorman again. He says, Hal Jordan and the Green Lantern Corps. Venditti is having a great run in his opinion, and I would agree. This comic almost appeared on my list as well. It was definitely an alternate. He's balancing, Zach says, he's balancing the four main Earth Green Lanterns really well. Yes, he is. Zach says, Super Sons has been really fun. And Aquaman has been good, but kind of slow. So I don't read those two books. Although Super Sons, I've gotten a few issues because they tied into some other books that I've read. So I did get the first 4 or 5 issues of that when it first started, and honestly, I didn't care for it all that much, despite who's writing it, or who was writing it. I don't know who's writing it now, but still, I mean, that's what I love about comics is that everybody can find something that they like. And even if you don't like it, even if I don't like it, somebody else loves it. And that's great. And of course, with that thought in the air, why not go to what I thought was the most disappointing of 2017? So, most disappointing in comics in 2017 for me. I mentioned the Oz effect in regards to Superman Reborn before. And, here it is in the most disappointing category. This is in Action Comics 987 through 991. Based on the build-up, like I said, coming out of Superman Reborn, I expected Oz to be something more than just another crazy renegade Kryptonian story. Sure, making Oz... spoilers here, if you haven't read it, sorry. Making Oz end up being Jor-El was a good twist, but not one that I cared for. It was just really... It really lessened my enjoyment, or not my enjoyment, but lessened my interest in Action Comics in general. Pretty much, I think I've decided. I mean, it depends on what they come out with after Action Comics 1000. But at this point, I'm simply sticking around on Action Comics for the build up to issue 1000. I don't think I need to, but for some reason I am. Anyway, next is, I mentioned Greg Rucka now a couple times, how much I love his work, but the Old Guard was a bit of a disappointment. I thought that the Highlander meets Soldier of Fortune idea would be right up my alley, but I was kind of disappointed with that one. I kind of thought the story was a bit too mediocre, and the characters, there wasn't enough characterization. I talked about how Rucka really... I think it was Rucka I was talking about, develops these characters. No, maybe that was Ellis. Anyway, but Rucka does it too. Develops characters really, really well and easily in the space of a comic. But I didn't get that so much in here, except for a couple exceptions. There were a couple characters whose backstory I really, really dug. I guess I just expected more out of this series, and I think there's a plan to return to it, and I don't know if I will. The next one is, oh boy, man, there are some comics I have gotten over the years where, mostly they've been miniseries, but, I get them and, going into it, I'm thinking, wow, I'm really looking forward to reading this for various reasons. And I read the first issue and I'm like, oh my God, I have made a horrible mistake. And this is one of them. This was Project Superpowers, Hero Killers. Oof. Boy. I think this was 5 issues. I really wish I had been able to stop at issue 1, but I had already pre-ordered at that point. By the time I read issue 1, I had already pre-ordered 3 up through issue 3. And I thought, well, I might as well just get the last 2. If I wasn't such a completist, I would have stopped. I would have not ordered issues 4 and 5. And quite frankly, now I wish I hadn't. Boy, this left a bad taste in my mouth. I don't normally do this, but avoid this one. I recommend this. I'm sorry. I highly recommend you avoid this one. Oof. And finally, Dr. Crow. This was a miniseries that sounded really cool, based on the solicitation, and the cover looked really cool. And so I thought I was going to really enjoy this, but, it was the first issue I got, and it was a few vignettes. I didn't really feel like they were fleshed out stories, and I needed more development about this Dr. Crow character throughout these stories. And he was just really a cipher. He was just there doing and saying stuff, and there really wasn't much to go on. So fortunately, this was not a monthly book. I think this is coming out every couple months, which was a good thing because I just got the first issue. So I apologize to the people out there who enjoy these particular books and stories. I just didn't. To each their own. And for some reason, I'm almost done, folks. For some reason, I keep coming back to this category. I don't know why. I often think I should drop this one for whatever reason, but I put on here my favorite covers again. And just real quick, I'll go through these. Batwoman Rebirth. This was the launch of that series, which I didn't care for all that much, but I absolutely loved the Steve Epting cover, which is just Batwoman's head, but it's just beautifully colored. I think mostly that. Epting does hair wonderfully, and this cover is no exception. And I didn't get enough of Steve Epting's art in 2017. David Golding did the action figure variant to Stray, the Actionverse number 1 issue featuring Stray. This is one of those, like I said, it's an action variant. So, it looks like there is this plastic figure it's like you're buying a plastic figure in this packaging, right? That's how cool the art looks. And then it's got Stray in a more comic book looking pose next to it. It even has the price tag, those old price stickers. It says $3.99 on it. But I love the construction of this particular cover. Next up is Lady Killer 2, number 5. I think last year Joelle Jones was my MVP artist in the list. This year, however, she only gets one of my favorite covers. This, like I said, issue number 5. This is with the main character from Lady Killer 2 on the cover, and she's pulling off this white bloody glove, and the wall behind her is all this blood everywhere. It's just the contrast of the white background with the red blood, with her and her little black dress that she's wearing. Just a beautiful, striking cover. And I love Joelle Jones. This is Joelle Jones and Michelle Madsen, I presume, doing the colors. So it's just beautiful stuff. I always look forward to seeing more of Joelle Jones's work. Teen Titans number 8. It was a variant cover by Phil Jimenez with colors by Alex Sinclair. This, I just chose it because I love Phil Jimenez, and I love Phil Jimenez drawing the Titans. And it's just a bunch of Titans on the cover looking out with a menacing Deathstroke eye looking on from behind them. It's a beautiful, beautiful Phil Jimenez cover. Simple as that. Superman number 14 by Patrick Gleason and Mick Gray. This was the issue part 1 of Multiplicity. It's similar to one of my favorites, I think, of last year, Superman American Alien, which is just this real simple, almost black and white feel to it with a splash of color, but it's a bunch of Supermen standing next to each other, going into the vanishing point. It's just really cool. So I think I mentioned this last year. A lot of the covers, I respond to the color compositions of the covers, and in this case, much like the Lady Killer cover, it's like the white background. Well, and the characters themselves, they're where the blue parts of Superman's costume they're white, and then you get the shield, which is the color part, and it's just very striking that way. Next up is Flash number 22 by Jason Fabok and Brad Anderson. This is the I think the last part of the Button story. Yeah. Part 4 of the Button. And we talked about the Button on, I can't remember the episode. I think it was episode 120, where we talked about the Button somewhat. Anyway, I really like this cover. It's the Golden Age Flash burning through what looks like a Flash Comics, a Golden Age Flash Comics cover. So you get this blending of the old and the new. I just really dug it. And what I'm referring to though is the non-lenticular cover that I got. I love how the modern age meets the Golden Age aspects of this cover. It's really cool. And then finally, again, I mentioned colors, and this is no exception. Mighty Thor 22 by Russell Dowderman and Matt Wilson. And man, it's really those Wilson colors that I'm responding to. I love how Thor and War Thor are in blue, and they're engulfed in the flames of the Queen of Cinders. And I just, you think about how blue flame is the hottest part of a flame, and you think about what the fight that they're engaged in, while they're also having to deal with the Queen of Cinders, and it's a really cool concept, but also just the colors alone. And Matt Wilson has just been killing it on his colors on the Mighty Thor books. So love Matt Wilson. Okay, and finally, my final category are the things that I'm looking forward to in 2018. There's only a few of these, so bear with me. First up is Strangers in Paradise 25. So I mentioned this before when I was talking about Terry Moore and Motor Girl, but I love Strangers in Paradise, and if you haven't read it, shame on you. Go buy it right now. It's a great book. It really is, folks. And So when I was first putting together this list, I had not yet received issue 1 of Strangers in Paradise 25. Since I've developed the list or finished the list, I have read the first issue, and boy, the story is off and running, picking up sometime, I'm not sure how long, after the events of the ending of Strangers in Paradise, but also the end of Terry Moore's other book, Echo. So there is a connection, a very direct connection between Echo and Strangers in Paradise. And there's actually I think everything since Strangers in Paradise, they do inhabit the same universe. I want to say, I'm not sure about Motor Girl. Yeah, I think so. I think that one is too. Yeah. And which is kind of cool. In the way that he connects all these different stories and ideas. Anyway, so like I said, it's off and running. I will admit, I do worry a bit about revisiting something that I love so much, i.e. Strangers in Paradise. But I also want more of that world. That's how I am. It's like things that I love in comics, in entertainment, short-lived things, or finite things, I should say, I want more of. And this is no exception. And, but with Terry Moore doing it, of course, I doubt very much that I'll be disappointed in the end result. I love his stuff. If you haven't already figured that out. I did have Doomsday Clock on here. And at this point I've read 3 issues of it, and, I am now more looking forward to what comes out of this. How will this affect the DC universe? So at this point, I'm guessing perhaps potentially Doomsday Clock might be in my most disappointing of 2018 list, but we'll see. We shall see. And then finally, what I'm looking forward to in 2018 is Brian Michael Bendis coming to DC after about 18 years, I think, at Marvel. Wow. I've often wanted Brian Michael Bendis to come play in the DC sandbox, and now he is. So I'm really fanboying about that. I certainly don't think his coming to DC will be bad at all. Like I said before, I'm a huge fan of his. I think he does really cool work. He has some really cool ideas. Don't listen to the naysayers. If you're a naysayer, I really don't understand it. Sorry, guys. I don't get it. Anyway, he already has been announced that he will be doing the Superman project. He's basically doing a John Byrne and relaunching Superman in some way. Of course, I'll be getting it. Although I will admit, I thought what they did with Superman for Rebirth, the Rebirth initiative, hell, even for New 52 was just fine. I'm not sure why they think they need to relaunch Superman. I think Superman is in a good place right now. So why mess with it? Other than, Bendis wants to. So we'll see what comes out of that. I also look forward to the return of Powers and mostly Powers. I know that Bendis is also bringing some of his other his Jinx World stuff to DC, which is great. Especially, like I say, the return of Powers. That's one of my absolute favorite books of Bendis's that I have read in the past. And he's also going to be doing a collection of curated books at DC, just like or similar to what Gerard Way did with Young Animal. So it looks like DC is going down that path of bringing in specific individuals to curate a line of books. I think that's a really interesting idea. I look forward to seeing what comes out of that. So, yeah. Lots of cool things. I'm sure there's some other things that I'm not thinking of at the moment that you are. So, as I said at the top of the show, I really would appreciate feedback, your choices for your favorites of 2017. And I look forward to getting more feedback on that. And you can always email me at longboxreview@gmail.com. As well as you can get a hold of me on Twitter at longboxreview. And that's probably the best ways to get a hold of me. But there's all sorts of ways to get a hold of me on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram. I even have a voicemail number that you can call and leave messages, and I can always play those back on the show. All that information is at longboxreview.com, and you click the contact feedback button on that page. So I look forward to hearing from you and knowing what your favorites of 2017 were. And thanks for listening, everybody. Thanks for listening to all my episodes in 2017. I had a lot of fun talking about comics and the conversations I had with various people throughout that year, and I look forward to continuing that into 2018. So with that in mind, as I said, thank you very much. Thanks for listening, and I will talk to you soon. Bye-bye.